Fear runs deep in Deontay Wilder. Fear runs deep in Deontay Wilder's team. Anyone to question who has more courage when you're talking about either Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua, anyone to say that Deontay Wilder has more courage than Anthony Joshua is a fool, and he's lying. He's lying. Okay? He's lying. He's lying. And let me tell you guys something. I've been following Deontay Wilder's career, his whole career. So I've seen his progress as a fighter. I've seen his cherry picks. I've seen all his cherry picks. Okay? The reason Deontay Wilder is protected is not because he's an American. No, it's not because he's an American. It's because his team didn't have confidence in him early on in his career. Okay? Early on in Deontay Wilder's career, his team did not have confidence in him. And this is why they fed him such shit opposition. Like, when Deontay Wilder was, 18-0, 19-0, he was fighting horrible opposition. Like, he was fighting horrible opposition. I'm not joking. Like, when I say he was fighting dudes with like 15, 25 losses on their records, I'm not joking. He was actually fighting guys who had like 20 losses in their records when he was 20-0. This was a guy who, in his 30th professional fight, he fought a dude with 10 losses. In his 31 professional fight, he fought a dude with like 15 losses. But I'll tell you why. This is the main thing. When it came to Wilder, the biggest excuse for Wilder when he was coming up was he started boxing late. This is what everyone was telling and anyone whenever they would talk about Wilder. Well, what you have to understand is Deontay Wilder started boxing at 19 years old. So because of this, we have to feed him these very shit quality opponents because we don't have confidence in him. We think he's going to end up losing. You see, they had this fear that they felt like Wilder was going to end up losing. Okay? So this is why for the longest time, it took him so long to finally step up. It's because the fear in his team. The fear in Wilder maybe being exposed. Maybe he was not ready. Okay? But the thing is, this whole excuse that Deontay Wilder started too late in his career at 19, and this is why it was okay for him to fight these shit level opposition for many years and just for several fights. It's really not nonsense because Anthony Joshua was the same age that Deontay Wilder was when he first started boxing. Anthony Joshua didn't start boxing at 5 years old. Floyd Mayweather Jr. started boxing at like 5 years old. Anthony Joshua didn't. Anthony Joshua was 18, 19 years old when he first stepped in the ring. Yet, Joshua was willing, in his team, Eddie Hearn has more confidence in Anthony Joshua than Deontay Wilder's team had in Deontay Wilder when he was first coming up. Because when Eddie Hearn was having Joshua fighting, he was stepping him up early. Like, Joshua was fighting dudes that Deontay Wilder was fighting in his 39th professional fight. Like, Deontay Wilder fought Luis Ortiz, right? People credit Luis Ortiz as the best victory in Deontay Wilder's life, right? But the sad part about that is it took place in Wilder's 39th professional fight. Now, Joshua fought Dillian White, who I think is in the same level, okay, of someone like Luis Ortiz. Maybe not as technical, but he's in the same type of level. And his like 16-15 fight. Joshua fought Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko, a former unified champion, in his 19th professional fight. That's insane. That's insane. Like Joshua could have said no. I'm only 19 fights into my career. I'm not gonna risk it. His team could have been like, listen, I'm not gonna risk it because I've only been fighting for it. I've only had 19 professional fights. I'm not ready. I don't feel that I'm ready. His team could have done that, and you know what? Many boxing fans would have probably understood that. Obviously, there would have been some boxing fans saying, "You a bitch, you ducked Klitschko." But a lot of his boxing fans probably would have understood that. They would have been like, "Okay, he's only been a pro for like 3 years. He has 19 fights. Okay, that's understandable. He's fighting Klitschko, right?" But Joshua's team had confidence in him. Again, Joshua could have been like, when Eddie Hearn went to Joshua and said, listen, mate, do you want, I can make this fight happen in Wembley against you and Vladimir. Joshua could have looked at Eddie Hearn and said, no, I don't want to fight Vladimir because I don't feel that I'm ready. He could have said that, but he didn't. He said, all right, and Eddie Hearn signed the fight, and he made it happen. It was a very difficult fight, but the point is, Joshua had the courage in him to get it made. When it came to Deontay Wilder, he didn't have this courage. Back in 2012, back in 2013, when Wilder had like 30 fights, I remember being a teenager. I remember people wanted to see Vladimir Klitschko versus Deontay Wilder, and I remember they asked Deontay Wilder's team about the possibilities of fighting Klitschko, and they were saying, "Oh, he needs to have more fights first." I remember his team saying this about Deontay Wilder. Well, Deontay Wilder needs to... No, Jay Diaz, his trainer / manager, he was saying, this was back in 2012, 2013. Oh yeah, he has to have a little bit more experience. He was saying this about Wilder. Now, mind you, back then, Wilder had maybe 25 fights. He had 6 more fights, and he had been a pro longer than Anthony Joshua had fights. Anthony Joshua had 19 fights, and he had only been a pro for 3 years, while Wilder, during 2013, during 2012, during this time where they wanted to see him fight Klitschko when Klitschko was the reigning champion, Wilder had been a pro for 5 years, and he had almost 30 pro fights. But back then, Eddie, Jay Diaz was saying, and not just Jay Diaz, a lot of the people in Showtime, the commentators were saying, he needs to prepare himself. I remember his promoter, Lou DiBella, when he fought, when Deontay Wilder defended his WBC belt against, this was 2 years later, because back in 2013, Deontay Wilder's manager, Jay Diaz was saying that Deontay Wilder needs to have more fights. He's not ready. But then 2 years later, for Klitschko at the time, but then 2 years later in 2015, I remember when Deontay Wilder defended his WBC belt against Johan Duhaupas, they asked, his promoter, Lou DiBella, and Lou DiBella was saying, oh, this guy is going to prepare him for Klitschko because Johan Duhaupas is the same height as Klitschko. He's 6'6", 6'5", so this is going to be a good preparation for Deontay Wilder to prepare himself for Klitschko. So 2 years after Jay Diaz said that he didn't feel that Deontay Wilder was ready for Klitschko, Louis DiBella was still saying that Deontay Wilder needed more preparation. So for years, the reason Deontay Wilder never fought Klitschko was because his team didn't have confidence in Deontay Wilder in fighting Klitschko. Trust me, homie, they could have made that fight happen. Deontay Wilder could have been fighting Klitschko, but his team, Deontay Wilder's team, didn't have the confidence in him. And this is why they still don't have the confidence in him. This is why I'm telling you, when it comes to bravery, when it comes to courage, Wilder doesn't have the confidence in himself that Anthony Joshua has. He just doesn't, okay? He doesn't, because if he did, back in 2013 when Jay Diaz was telling him, listen, I don't think you're ready for Klitschko, Wilder could have looked at Jay Diaz and been like, listen, homie, I don't give a fuck what you think. I feel that I'm ready for Klitschko. Put me in the ring against him. I want to fight this dude. I want to become undisputed at heavyweight, or at least have the majority of the belts. But he didn't have the confidence to say that. He just let Jay Diaz, control his career, and Louis DiBella and all these other dudes. And he let years pass, and he let them basically have full control of his career. Even though he has a mouth, he let them have full control of his career. So this is why I'm not surprised, people. I'm not surprised that Deontay Wilder doesn't want to fight Anthony Joshua anytime soon because he's never had confidence in himself. He's never had confidence in himself that he thinks he could truly beat a dude. Again, that doesn't mean he's afraid of the guy. I'm not saying he's afraid. I'm not saying he can't beat Joshua. I'm also not saying he couldn't have beaten Vladimir Klitschko. What I'm saying is he doesn't have the confidence, and his team especially just don't have the confidence in him, bro. And that's all I have to say, man. Subscribe. Bye.